Hello everyone, this is Dan Hollings. We're here for Stomper Mobile session number 9. And we will be starting in just a few minutes. I want to give everyone a chance to log in. It is my birthday. If you want to send cash or money or anything like that, I'm open. Otherwise, you can just say happy birthday. That'll be good. Hopefully you can hear me and see the screen. We've had a few challenges throughout these sessions with GoToWebinar. So I will forewarn you that it may happen again tonight. If it does, just hang tight. Usually what happens is either the slides or the screen freezes up. Not for me, but for you. And I'll be going merrily along, and you'll be stuck on an old screen, and I'll be moving along until I find out. There's no way for me to know, except that I usually get a few text messages from people. And then what I have to do is I have to log out and then come back in. Usually takes me 3-4 minutes to do so, and then we just continue on from there. It usually only happens once every session, but that's enough to make me want to shoot somebody over there at GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar, whatever they call it. So anyway, be prepared for that. If that does happen, it's a good idea while I'm doing my logging back in, head over to the Stomper Mobile portal where you can post some questions, read around a little bit, and download the presentation slides, which, by the way, are already up and ready for you to download. Session number 9 slides are in the PDF format. They're featured right there in the Stomper Mobile forum. You can download those. Again, if you're just logging in, this is Dan Hollings. We're about to start Stomper Mobile session number 9. Tonight we're going to be talking about analytics, mobile analytics. How boring does it get? I'll try to make it exciting. It's kind of like going to the dentist, you know. It's just, you got to do it, you know. It makes you smile. Kind of the way I look at analytics, you know. Might not be real exciting, but you got to do it. And if you do it right, it'll make you smile. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of happy birthday messages here. I'll tell you, I got more happy. Hopefully you can see the screen. Somebody says they can't see the screen. Is that the case? Do you see the screen? I don't see you.
Dan, I see the screen. Have you shared your screen already?
Let me see. Maybe I haven't. Hold on. Aha. Okay.
Let's make you the presenter.
Yeah, you got to do that. Hang on, guys. I've only done this for years, so I don't know what I'm doing yet.
There you go.
Okay, you should be seeing Stomper Mobile by Dan Hollings, session number 9 on your screen now. And again, thanks everyone for all of the happy birthday messages. This year I got more happy birthday messages than ever before, and due mostly to social media. I don't know, I guess they publish your birthday or something. I'm not sure, but my word, I woke up this morning and I thought the whole planet knew I was getting old. That's never happened, so it must be social media. I mean, Facebook, Twitter, instant messages, Skypes, emails. Geez, it was just hard to believe. So anyway, if I didn't say thanks personally or respond, I certainly do appreciate it and want everyone to know that. Anyway, we're going to talk about mobile analytics tonight. And I kind of like mobile analytics. I like analytics in general, and I love split testing and stuff. I think the key to it is knowing, you know, what to look at, and not getting so buried in all of the numbers that you just, you know, become paralyzed. Just being able to go in. The way I do it is I kind of have certain factors that I look for, and I pay attention to that, and then I ignore quite a bit of the other stuff. And of course, that can vary, by campaign to campaign. But mobile analytics is kind of its own animal. And if you've done anything with web analytics, the analytics for just your regular websites and web pages, this is similar in some ways and quite different in other ways. There's a lot more data which we can peruse, and I'll go through that tonight. So it'll be pretty exciting. I'm also going to venture out and try to teach you guys something that I think you need to know. We're going to do it and spend some time at that, but it's just a little bit of programming, just a little bit, because I have found in my own experience that if you know just a little bit, it will just absolutely make your life as a marketer all that much better. So I'm going to just point you right to what you need to know. And the reason I'm doing it in this session is because if you don't know just a little bit, you're not going to be able to get your analytics installed. I mean, you literally have to put the code into your mobile web pages in order for your analytics to work. And it's a tad bit complicated. If you're doing just analytics for your website, it's easier because with website analytics, you can just put a little snippet of JavaScript code. I know many of you are familiar with Google's analytics. And you can go over there and you can set up an account, click a few buttons, and they give you a little snippet of code, and you just paste that into your web page, typically down at the bottom. And that's pretty much it. It's a little JavaScript code, no big deal. But guess what? On a mobile phone, many of them don't understand JavaScript. So therefore, you have to do a little bit more programming in order to get it done. So I'm going to show you how to do that tonight. And if you're using any type of mobile analytics that's based on JavaScript, or in fact many of even the little, some analytics use the little pixel that gets put on the page. Often that's used in email analytics, in fact. That too, you got problems because some of the mobile phones don't display images. And so, it's a whole different animal. So by me showing you a few of these things and just zeroing in on exactly what you need to know, I think it's going to help you not only with mobile, but it'll probably help you with all of your marketing. So, I am a programmer and a designer, and I do the marketing, and I find that it's helped me. So I figured I'll try to simplify this and show you how to do it. So it's going to be fun. I mean, hands-on, let's get some stuff done. Okay, again, in the StomperNet forum area, the portal, the Stomper mobile portal area, I've already uploaded the PDF of these slides for session number 9, and you can download those. And there's a lot of links in there, so you'll be able to go to all the places that we talk about tonight. Okay, first of all, let's talk about what we're talking about here. What is it exactly that we're tracking? As you know, with traditional web analytics, you're typically tracking things like your page views, keywords, visits, visitors, referrals, URLs, countries, and the list goes on. There's quite a few things that you track. In addition to that, with mobile analytics, you also track things such as the type mobile device, model, the manufacturer, the screen resolution, and then there's also these ad hoc groupings that are based on certain capabilities, such as whether your phone is a smartphone or a feature phone or what have you. That can also be determined and is included with some of the analytic software packages that you can install on your mobile web pages. Also the network operator, in other words, the carrier, that can be determined. And then also whether the visitor is accessing your page through a cellular mobile network or if it's through a Wi-Fi network. Now, because of this, the regular analytics, like Google's regular analytics and many of the analytics that you may have used in web pages, just don't work. I mean, in fact, the last thing on the page here is something new. I mean, you would never have a situation where a person on a computer would sometime access your page from a cell phone network, and at other times on the same computer they'd be accessing it through Wi-Fi, and then maybe other times accessing it through their modem or their cable access. You just don't have that variety, and so therefore you've got a whole different way of tracking that has to occur. So you're going to have more data here, but the bottom line is this: you have to use a package that is designed for mobile, and not all of the mobile programs out there are created equal. There are many, many programs that are available that are either low cost or free, and I'm going to focus on the low cost and free ones. And if you're really high end and you're doing some heavy duty volume and it's worthy of higher end analytics, there are packages out there that you could explore that cost some money. But we're going to focus on the free or low cost ones. There's a lot of good stuff out there, and I'll point you right to the ones that I'd recommend. Now, as is the case with this whole field, mobile, new stuff is just coming up all the time. I mean, I think everyone heard, about the new iPhone 4 that just came out, and just as the hardware keeps changing and improving, so do all of the different applications and capabilities that are out there. So you may find something that's equally as good, or you may be using something that's equally as good as what I might recommend tonight. I think that by the time we get through this, though, you'll see that you'll get the core features and core functions and capabilities that are important. You'll understand it, and it won't matter that much about the particular analytics package that you might use. So anyway, with that, let's move on here. Okay, what we want to do is we want to understand our mobile customer. And in order to do that, here are the 5 things that you really need to focus on. And this is perhaps a little different than what you've been doing with your computer analytics. Not that you shouldn't do it, but with mobile, you definitely want to do this. First of all, you do need to implement tracking. We're going to show you how to do that. But instead of just tracking and just having statistics pile up, what you want to do is you want to make a proactive effort at building your analytics. In other words, getting more data that comes from your customer voluntarily, rather than just data that some type of analytics system is providing. So what that means is that you need to build into your campaigns and continually request from your opt-ins and members information about themselves. I think it's even more important that you know the habits and interests and desires of your mobile customers than perhaps even your web-based customers. A good way to do that is by polling your members or polling your customers. Okay? Once you do that, then you need to begin to mine that data to see if you can find certain trends for your members or your customers. So don't just let a system collect data. The core of what I'm saying here is let the system collect data and proactively seek additional data which only your members and customers can give you. All right? There is no software out there that's going to tell you whether your customer or member is a male or a female. You need to do a poll or survey or something of that nature in order to find that out. There's no software that's going to tell you their age or just all types of demographic information that you can't get unless you ask. But you will find that if you do it right with mobile, you should be able to build a really robust database that would include a lot of demographics. Now, the reason is because you know, when we send text messages out, for example, it's not free. And so you certainly wouldn't treat it like you do email. If you're selling a product that is of only interest to, you know, older men, you certainly don't want to blast out a text message that's going to go to, you know, young women. I mean, it's just a waste of money, and at 7 cents a pop, if that's what you're spending on your text message, it just doesn't make sense. So by building this data and looking for trends and looking for segmentation within your database, you'll be able to do a lot of smart marketing, and it can be extremely effective. Also, it's not only the effectiveness of it, it's just that you will get higher unsubscribe rates if you don't do this. If you keep pushing out messages and it's not matching up with your members or your customers' interests, then they'll eventually begin to get bothered by what you're offering, and they'll unsubscribe. So you just have to be more attentive, and the only way to do that, more attentive and more targeted, the only way to do that is to follow these 5 steps. Now, number 5 is you want to engage in creative ways to uncover more than just a mobile phone number, such as short surveys. Now, in my experience, and from what I've researched, is that a maximum of 4 questions is about what the average consumer will put up with or will engage with if you're doing this through an SMS text message interaction. Okay? And it's really quite similar, even though you might be able to expand a little bit if you're doing a web-based, mobile web-based survey. But a good survey-oriented campaign often will yield a very high percentage response rate. So what I'm really saying here is that mobile customers or mobile visitors or prospects, you know, they like surveys. They're willing to give you this information, and so you should ask for it. If you don't, then shame on you. So what I've said here is build a database beyond what a system can give you. Add to it polls, surveys, and things of that nature. Now, the types of mobile analytics that you can do, certainly there's more than I have on the page here, but these are some of the primary types. They include different types of analytics that can do, in most cases, 1 or 2 things, either split testing or the building of data so that you can do some type of data analysis. So you're doing generally one or the other. Now, when it comes to testing, sometimes what you can do with testing is you can do a small-scale test before you go out and run a larger campaign. Now, that's just kind of the obvious, you know, type of testing, and I figured most people would probably get that. In other words, before you would go and shoot out a text message campaign to 20,000 people and spend 7 cents a text message, you might want to just test it with 1,000 people. And maybe 500 in one, you know, and 500 in another text message to see which one's better, or break it up any way you want. Then you're ready to do a larger campaign, all right? But what you might not think about is the second part of testing, which is you can often test things with text messaging that are really meant for some other channel. In other words, you could test something that maybe you're going to put on a billboard, or on a you know, a bus bench, or maybe something that you're going to have printed up on you know, a flyer that you're about to mail out to, you know, 40,000 people. Before you print up the flyers with this headline, you might want to test it with a text message, because you get instant, really good feedback, and that's a good thing to do in order to make sure that your other channel or your other medium works. They do this a lot in TV. It costs a lot to put together a television commercial, or it can also just be a waste if you were to get an interview on a talk show and have the opportunity to you know, mention a short code or something like that. If you could test it first in a small scale and then put it in this other media, it can be a really, really good way to do it. You can do this a little bit in Twitter as well. It's not quite as effective, but you can do it a little bit in Twitter. Sometimes what you can do is you can test it a little bit in Twitter until you kind of work out the kinks, then move it over and run a final test or two with a small text message campaign, and then finally move it up and pay the $10,000 for that big billboard that you wanted to do. But the point here is that you can use testing in text messaging and use that as a way to analyze what's happening so that you can have an effective campaign. The other type of analytics is analytics that is specific to SMS. Now, there aren't, this isn't, like a package you buy and install. You're going to find that type of analytics inside the vendor application that you're working with. If you're using any particular text message service, I've got the PDF in the forum there that has over 100 different SMS services that are out there. Most of them have some type of analytics built in so that you can see how many text messages you've sent out, perhaps how many people read them or responded, and things of that nature. Sometimes you can't track everything, but what can be tracked is often in that vendor's application in the admin area. The other area that you can apply analytics to is coupons. And the main two areas there have to do with how many coupons were downloaded and how many of the ones that were downloaded were actually redeemed. And then ultimately you're going to do an analysis to figure out, what was the return on investment in that particular campaign of coupons and what have you. The next one would be your page or site analytics, and this breaks into two categories. And I have to mention this because it's not obvious. It is obvious that you would want to have some analytics on your mobile web pages and your mobile site. That's just obvious. But as you'll see in a bit, you also need to have analytics on your web-based, your regular website and web pages as well, because you do need to know how many people are hitting your regular website that are on a mobile device. How many people are coming to your regular web page right now that are on a mobile device, and what devices are they? If you know that information, then it better enables you to adjust your PC-based website for those mobile users and either redirect them on to something else. We've talked about redirect code and having transition pages and all that kind of stuff. But by having an analytics package on that site that will give you that information is important. And guess what? Google Analytics, which is what you may have on there right now, isn't going to cut it for you because, again, it's operating off technology, likely JavaScript, that just isn't even picked up when a mobile device hits your PC-based website. So we'll talk about that and show you how to do that. The other thing is just campaign analytics. It's a whole area. I mean, it can have anything to do with pathing. What page did they hit first? Where did they go to second? Do they buy? All that kind of stuff. A whole campaign analytics can be done. Engagement analytics, determining how, what pages and how long and how people are engaged in whatever it is you're trying to engage them in. Subscriptions and opt-in analytics, determining how many people are actually opting in to your list. Return on investment analytics, figure out you're spending so much money and how much money is that bringing in through your product sales. Also, mobile app analytics or widgets. And by the way, widgets they're kind of like mobile apps. It's just that they're web-based. They run on a web page and they can be, viewed through a mobile phone. Whereas a literal mobile app is actually a little application that's actually running off of the hardware and software of the mobile phone. But there's analytics for that as well. And I'll be recommending or showing you some of that in a minute. And then cross-media mobile analytics. For the first time, what mobile does, and this is where the magic is it gives you the ability to get some analytics from other media that usually people thought there was just no way to track it. I mean, if you put a billboard up on the side of the highway and people are driving by, there's no way to tell how many people drive by and if they were looking, and even if they were looking, if they even remembered anything they saw. There's no way to do that. But now, if you put some type of mobile engagement, call to action in this other media, then you can begin to analyze what's happening. How many people sent in a text message off of the billboard? Okay, and again, I use billboard, but it could be a flyer that you're mailing out. It could be the sign that you have up in your retail, outlet. It doesn't matter. But the point is that this allows you to track and get analytics from media that isn't mobile. So you're actually getting cross-media data, which is really important. Now, some of the things that you can measure are listed here, and I'm listing this stuff to get you, in the mindset of thinking about all of this stuff. That's what I'm trying to do first, and then we'll get into the hands-on actually doing it. But you can measure your member or customer growth rates. You could measure your opt-in or opt-out rates. You could measure your viral growth rates per engagement, coupon redemption rates, average sale per redemption, average engagements per month, cost per redemption, cost per engagement, cost per member or customer, or the true return on investment for the overall program. And there are other things as well, but you'll see that what you have to do is you have to figure out, well, at the end of the day, what is it that's most important for me to figure out about what I'm doing, and what am I actually, what do I actually need to measure that has some value to me so that I can either improve the campaign or dump it. And there's an old saying, and I may get it wrong, it's like, half of my marketing budget or half of my advertisement is working, and the other half isn't. The only problem is I don't know which half. And that's really what analytics is all about, determining what is working, what's not working, so you can improve upon the situation. There's no use to spend money or waste time doing something that's not working. This is what I call the 9 flavors of engagement, and these are some of the things where you can actually track whether somebody's doing something or not when you do a campaign. You can track whether they're responding to banner or display ads. You can track your text messaging. You can track from mobile search. And you'll see later the analytics often will tell you what keywords were typed in order to get them to one of your web pages. You can track what's going on with any mobile app that you might develop and put out there. You can have in-application or game ads. Those can be tracked. Cross-channel, we already talked about that. Viral, how many people are forwarding your text messages, how many people are passing along your mobile website. You can track what happens with the 2D short code engagements. Many of these things have their own separate tracking systems. In fact, that's kind of part of the problem. You may end up having the traffic from your mobile site is in one set of statistics. The traffic from your coupon is another set of statistics, from another provider, and then your 2D short code is yet from another, and they're all working together on the same page. And so you've got these 3, separate sources for data, and you have to somehow put it all together. So it's not simple. Okay, it's kind of hard. Next thing that you can look at is location-based engagement. How many people are actually visiting your venue, or recommending it, or putting shout-outs out there and things like that. In regards to cross-channel mobile integration and analyzing it, I've actually listed these. This is definitely not, dyed in stone here, but in general, this is from worst to best when it comes to the types of things that integrate well with mobile, or more specifically with text messaging. Billboards can be done with mobile or text messaging. Radio, sports venues and events, on-site ambassadors, in other words, literally people that are at an event or a place that help engage people with something you're doing that's mobile. Television, festivals, parades, print, and then in-store signage. And I made a note here that this is one of the highest success rates as far as finding subscribers, and when they do opt in, they're the type of subscribers that tend to stick, and that comes from in-store signage. Now, you may find this slightly different depending on what your business is about, but this is, again, from worst to best, as I've noticed, mostly in retail, restaurants, things of that nature. But the reason I'm giving it to you isn't so much for the order. Your order might be exactly the opposite. It's just to get you thinking about how you can or should track the analytics from these other channels when you think about mobile analytics. Now, if you're going to do a test, that was one of the things we talked about, and I think testing is way up there on the list of things that you should do if you'd like to have success with a lower cost, and that cost is both in money and time. But these are the steps, what I call the anatomy of a mobile test. Number one, you decide what are you testing. Is it a mobile landing page, elements of a campaign, or specific content? For example, an SMS text message offering, joining a holiday discount club, the attractiveness of a dedicated holiday shopping application that you've put together, or a new e-commerce enabled website. In other words, you've got to specify first what it is that you're trying to test. Number two, why do you want to run this test? Are you trying to increase something or decrease something or improve how something looks? Do you have data that prompted the need for this test? Is it the number of responses? Is it the number of new sign-ups, the conversions between a text message interaction and the receipt of a discount? Identify one or multiple attributes which can be measured and compared. So you've got to decide why it is that you're running this test. Just jumping out there and doing tests without going through, there's 10 points that I'm going to give you here. If you do these 10 points and then do your test, you're going to get good results, and then it's going to help you to determine what to do on a bigger scale, or what to do in this other media if you're going to do it that way. Number three, what success criteria do you have in mind for this test? For example, will you be successful if you increase the number of click-throughs by 10%? Okay, you need to ask a question about that. What is the success criteria? What criteria would cause you to want the test stopped immediately? This is funny because this is one of the things that most people never think about. Okay, I'm going to test this thing. I'm going to run it, and we'll see what the test results are. But the person doing it never decides, well, what is going to cause me to stop the test? I mean, what do I have to do? For example, if the conversion rate declines by 10% during the test, should we stop the test? Or if your test runs several weeks, you may want to cease testing if you observe little or no material difference in measures. Or if one idea is simply generating far more results than the other. In other words, decide what it is that will cause you to end this test. Sounds silly, but it's the one thing most testers don't do. What specific measures, this is number 5, what specific measures and key performance indicators, KPIs, and which visitor segments will you be watching during this test? For example, the click-through rate or the bounce rate for first-time visitors who view the test page, or the conversion rate across the mobile site for all visitors. In other words, decide up front the KPIs, the key performance indicators that you're planning to watch during the test. Don't just throw a page out there, put some analytics on there, and then start trying to figure out what it is you're going to watch. And one day you check one thing, the next day you check something else. First day you're checking click-through rates, the next day you're checking the bounce rates, and then that's goofy. Decide it makes it simpler and easier. I'm going to watch this, and this for 5 days, and then that's going to give me my key performance indication. Number 6, what marketing initiatives or external factors are you aware of that could affect the test? For example, will you be running a competing email promotion during the same time, or are you changing your spin rate on your ads? That can affect things. If you're doing an email out to the same or roughly the same database as you are a text message, then that's going to affect, that's an external factor, but it's going to affect your marketing results. So you have to think about what you're going to be doing concurrently. What internal or external resources are required for this test? That's number 7. For example, what development or information technology resources will be required? Or outside agencies or outsourced workers involved in generating perhaps the creative for the test? Consider both your internal staff and their potentially competing priorities, as well as if you're working with an agency and perhaps any technical third-party partners. Who else needs to be involved in the approval process? Now, a lot of you, I know if you're running your own business, it's you make your decision, what have you, but there's also some people who are going through this program who are actually marketers who are working for a corporation. In that case, you've got other, you got a hierarchy of approvals that have to be met in order to get things through. So that may apply to you. What departments, same thing with this one. Number 8, what departments, partners, or key internal stakeholders are potentially affected by this test? For example, might this test affect sales or lead generation? Could tests designed be construed as off-brand and affect public relations and marketing efforts? Number 9, who is the most senior person in your organization requesting the test? And again, if you're a sole proprietor or you're just running your own marketing campaigns, this doesn't apply. But is it you? Is it your manager? Is it your manager's manager? Or is it your client? Maybe you're doing this campaign for a client, or is it the CEO of the company that you work for? What do they require to sign off on the program? If you don't know that up front, then you may as well not do the campaign. You need to know what do you got to meet in order to get the person to approve this, so that you can get the proper money and staffing in order to get the campaign up and going. And number 10, ideally, by when do you need the test results? And keep in mind that test timing depends on many variables, including the scope of the test, your success criteria, and other tests that might need to be run. Okay. Sounds a little boring, but most people do not think through these things. This is more or less a template that you can follow in order to do a mobile test and have it have some value to you at the end of the day. Otherwise, you may as well not test because you don't have a plan, and it's just not going to produce any results that have any value. Now let's do some fun stuff. I'm going to teach you later how to install the code for tracking mobile visitors and all the mobile engagement, interaction, and all that kind of stuff. But in order to do it, you either are going to have to go out and hire somebody that's a programmer, or you can learn how to do this yourself. And I got to thinking about it, and I think it's easy enough for most people to do this, and it's worth your effort to learn it. If, as I go through this, it just kind of like flies over your head, and you're going, "Holy cow! This isn't me. I'm good at marketing, but when it gets into this technical stuff, it's just beyond me." then okay, just kind of time out, get a general feel for what I'm talking about, and that way at least when you work with your programmers, you'll have a better understanding of what they're doing. So I believe this may be globally beneficial to you, even beyond mobile, to know some of the basics of what I'm going to show you here. Now, I happen to be a Mac user, and I kind of steer clear of PCs for the most part, but I've spent enough time on them to kind of know basically how they work. But in teaching this, I wanted to be able to teach in a way where it didn't matter whether you were on a Mac or a PC, that I could teach you how this is done, and you get the idea and can do it. There is, luckily, one application, and it's free, that is called FileZilla, kind of like Godzilla, only this is FileZilla. And it's free. Once you get the presentation from the Stomper Mobile Forum area and download it, you'll be able to click the button right there in the center of the screen, and it'll take you over, and you'll be able to download it. We're going to be going over there in a moment. But what's cool about FileZilla, not only is it free, it works great, it's very robust, but it works on both Mac and PC, and the interface that you see, whether you're on a Mac or PC, are very similar, very, very similar. So this is going to enable me to show you how to do this, and it won't matter whether you're on a Mac or PC, you'll be able to do it. Now, if you happen to use some other FTP software, you're going to get it, because all of this FTP software is basically pretty simple. And really, here's what you're doing. If this is, even when I say FTP, you may think, well, what the hell does that stand for? And it doesn't even matter what it stands for. Basically, what it means is this. You've got a computer, and it's got maybe your mobile web page somewhere on your computer because you built it there. Or maybe you built it at MobiCycle or some other place, and you downloaded it. But you've got your website or your web page on your desktop, let's say. And you want to have the public see it. Well, the public can't see what's on your computer. You have to put it on what's called a server, so that the public can see it. Now, all a server really is just a computer. It's no different than the one you've got, except that it's dedicated to a purpose of holding files and displaying them in a way that the public can see them, all right? So what you're really doing here with FTP is you're just moving a file from your computer to another computer. That's all you're really doing. And it's really no different than if you ever had a file somewhere on your computer that was in one folder or a directory someplace, and you just wanted to move it from that one folder over to another folder, and you just, drag it over there or something like that. That's really all this is. It's just that when you drag it over or upload it, you're really just moving it from your computer to another computer that's, off someplace else and is dedicated to serving files for the public to see. So that's all we're talking about here. This isn't something weird, or it's not something complicated, but conceptually that's all you're doing. So let's take a look at how this looks, and we're going to actually see it live in just a moment. But as you can see, with FileZilla and with most FTP clients that work on a PC, it basically has it set up so that what you see on the left side of the screen is your computer, your desktop, your folders and files or directories. That's on the left side of the screen. And at the same time, on the right side of the screen, you'll see some folders and files and stuff that are on your server. And you can see just by looking at this example that they kind of just look the same. You got some folders and some files on the left side, and you got some folders and some files on the right side. And what you're going to be doing is taking the stuff that's on your computer that's on the left side and dragging it over and placing it someplace on the server on the right side. That's it. That's it. Okay. Here's a closer look, and you can see that at the top it says danhollings.mobi. The base folder, in most cases, that you'll be working from is going to be the same as the name of your domain. So when I get into my server, or into your server, I'll look for the folder that is my domain name, danhollings.mobi. And then within that folder, it has several different things, but you'll notice that one of them, right here where the green area is called the public_HTML folder. On most servers, that's what it's called. Now, I'm talking about a Unix server, by the way. If any of you are hosting on a Windows-based or ASP server, that's somewhat similar, but I'm not familiar with that at all. The majority of sites and things these days are running on Unix, so this is probably what's going to happen, or probably what you'll be dealing with. But anyway, you're going to look for the public_HTML folder. In some cases, they may name this different. If it's a little different, you'll have to figure that out, but the majority of them will be called public HTML. That's where all of the HTML and all of the files that you're sharing with the public will reside. That's where you'll upload things. So basically what we've got here is a folder called danhollings.mobi, and within that folder is another folder called public.html. And if I open that folder, which I've done, all you see at the bottom are all of the files and folders that are in the public_HTML folder. Okay? That's it. So we've got it. Now, the file that is your home page on a server is called index. Almost across the board, they always call it index. Now, it might be index.html. It might be index.htm. If it's a PHP page, it might be index.php. But there will only be one index, and it's going to be your home page. So that's what you always look for when you get onto a server. Let me do it again. You look for your domain. Within the domain, you look for the public_HTML directory or folder. And then once you open that, if you want to find the home page, that's going to be index.something. That's it. And then you've got other pages too. As you look right here, this is actually my mobile site. There's my Contact Me form. That's pretty obvious. There's my About Me page. There's my Favorite Links page. These have been named something that kind of tells me a little bit about what they are. Here's my testimonial page, and then I've got a sitemap down there. You can kind of tell what it is, and each one of those files is a web page if it ends in either .html, .htm, .php. Those are just your regular web pages. This other stuff that you see in there where it says things like .gif or .jpeg or some of this other stuff, those are other types of files. A .gif is an image, a .jpeg is an image, things like that. But don't worry too much about all that stuff. What I want you to understand right now is that you've got some files and folders on your desktop, your computer, and there's a server out there someplace that's basically got files and folders too. And you're going to be moving your stuff from your desktop over into the proper locations on this server. That's it. Now, if you happen to be a Mac user, the actual FTP program that I use is called Fetch. It's not free, but I've used it for as long as I've been online, and it's one of the premier, applications for Mac. And if you're interested, you can certainly go over there and download it, and you could use that. I think they have a free trial and what have you. I just wanted you to know that because there are many things you can do, or many different applications that you can use, both Mac and PC, and that's the one that I happen to use. The link is on this page here. Now, when you do it using Fetch, it's still pretty much the same thing that's going on, and I thought I'd show you that, but it just looks a little bit different. With Fetch, you've got one window right here, which is just a folder that's on my desktop. There it is right there. And here are the pages that are my website here, About Me, AdMob, Contact Me, and all that. Those are the web pages. And then this other window over here on the right side is Fetch. That window just is a window that shows me the files on my server. And in order for me to put something on my server, I just grab it from over here and drag it over into the Fetch window, and it uploads it. So that's really what this is. So whether you're using something like Fetch or whether you're using something like FileZilla, it's really just dragging things from your computer over to the server, and then it uploads. That's really what it is. When you first log in using Fetch, you'll get a window that'll show you things like logs, private, public, and all that. But again, you'll look for public_HTML, and if you click on that, then it opens up and you actually see all the files. So that's what it looks like. The Fetch look on the server would look something like that. So whether you're using Fetch or whether you're using FileZilla or any other program, that's pretty much it. You're just looking at files and folders. Now, I'm going to teach you just some basic HTML. I want you to keep in mind that the reason I'm explaining this is so that you'll be able to install your mobile analytics software yourself, or at least if you ask someone else to do it, you'll kind of know what they're doing and be able to instruct them as to exactly what you need to do. One of the great advantages that I have knowing a little bit of this is that even though I have programmers and designers do some of my work, I can always tell them exactly what I want them to do rather than just trying to explain it, in layman's terms and hoping they can figure it out. I can tell them a little bit more specific, and then I can also see what's wrong when they don't do it right. So it does help to know a little bit of this. So here's the deal. A lot of this stuff is hyperlinked, so as you go through the slides, you can click, and it's going to take you right over so that you can see this stuff. This is an HTML introduction that you can click on, and you can actually pace yourself through this just a little bit each day and learn it, but I don't think you need to learn it all. I'm not trying to turn you into a programmer here by no means. But some of you may like it and want to go a little deeper, and this is a really good HTML introduction to get you started. But here's the basics of this. A document that produces a web page starts with HTML at the top and /HTML at the bottom. And they always put this code inside these pointy brackets, okay? Kind of the greater than and the less than signs if you're into math. So at the top you see HTML, at the bottom you see HTML, all right? So the top one is your opening tag, and when they put that slash, that means it's the closing. It's almost like, okay, guys, the HTML page starts right here, and it'll keep going all the way through, and it could go on and on and on for a great deal of, of stuff until you finally get to the closing HTML tag, which will always be /HTML inside the pointy brackets. Okay? So you always have an opening and a close with all of these tags. That's the way it is. All right? The next thing is we want to tell the page what goes in the body. What goes in the body of this page that we're going to build. So you put the word body inside these little pointy brackets, and then you close body at the end with a /body. And again, it's in the pointy brackets. So you see how they're enclosing this stuff? You got HTML is the outer wrapping of this, and then inside that you've got the body. And then all the stuff that occurs here is the body or the content. For example, you could have a heading, my first heading, and that's what H1 stands for, heading size 1, which is the biggest. Heading size 2 would be a little smaller. Heading size 3 would be a little smaller than that. And then after you have your heading, then you've got a paragraph. And that's what the P stands for. The P tells the computer to start a paragraph. You write your text in here, and then the /P says, okay, that paragraph is over. That's all it is. Now, if you just look at this just enough to let it sink in, you pretty much know how to do HTML programming. That's it. I mean, you've got the core here. There's always a beginning tag and a closing tag, and the closing tag always has a /. All right? And then these tags kind of tell the computer how to treat certain parts of what you've typed on the page to turn it into a web page. So let's take a look at this. Actually take a look at it. I just clicked the link there, and it brings you to a little example. Here is exactly what we just looked at, and if you look on the right side, that's the way it would get rendered in a web page. So if I wanted to make this my second web page, I could just change that text, and as soon as I change it, then it changes over here on the right side. Okay? So that means that now you could go into any web page that you have, and if you want to just play around with it, you now know this. As long as I don't touch what's inside these little pointy things, I'm cool. Don't touch what's inside those little pointy brackets, and you're going to be okay in editing. So you could come in there and you could find where the heading is, and you could change it. You don't have to pay the programmer to do it if there's a typo or whatever. All right? And by the way, these headings are really important for SEO. SEO, or the search engines, look for what you put in your headings. Those are those big things right there, because they figure if you're going to make something really big on the page, it must be important. So that would be a great place to put some keywords, is in your heading tags. Okay? Now, when it gets to your paragraph down here, that's not as important. That's just your blah, blah text rambling on and on and on and on. Okay? Whatever you want to put there. So you get the idea. So you could play around with this a little bit and actually see how easy it is to build a web page by just doing things like that. Okay? Now, let's go back and go to the next page. In addition to an HTML page having a body, it's also got a head. I mean, this is just like people. All right? So now what has been added in this example, still within the HTML tags, is your head. So you've got an HTML web page here. Right here is the head. Notice how they start with head, and then they close it with head. And anything you put in the middle here is inside the head. Anything you put down here is inside the body. Okay? This is pretty easy. Now, one of the most important things that you'll find in the head is the title. In fact, this is the most important thing there is in SEO. Whatever is in the title, it doesn't appear on the web page itself. It appears up in the bar at the top of your web browser. It's also what appears in the search results pages. Whatever you put in your title is generally the part they click on in the search results, and it's the place where keywords have their highest value. We put them in there. All right? So let's click on this. Let's go back here. Let's click on this and go over and take a look at it. Here we go. All right? You'll notice that the body right here gets displayed. But what's up in the head will never show up on the web page. The title will show up at the very top, and you don't see it here because this is a different thing, but right up here is where the title shows up, at the very top of your web browser. So when you put a title in right here, it doesn't show up on the page, it shows up at the very top, okay? And again, you're not seeing it in this because this is an online editor here, but that's really important. So you got it? Things that appear in the head don't show up on the web page. In fact, the only thing that shows up anywhere at all is the title that can be put in the head, and it shows up at the very top of the web browser. Okay? Only stuff that's in the body shows up on the web page. You can play around with that a little bit, and you could actually change your title and stuff like that. Okay. Now let's go just real quickly to my mobile site, danhollings.mobi. Okay, this is my mobile site, and of course it doesn't look like mobile. Let me make it smaller. And you'll notice that right up at the top where it says Web Strategist, that's my title. Okay? Now I'm going to pull the source on this page, and when that comes up, all this Cody stuff here, you can really almost ignore it all, and let's just look down here until we find something that's recognizable, all right? For example, right here, it says title, Web Strategist. Do you see that that title where it says Web Strategist, okay, that's inside the head, here's where the head started, here's where the head ends, and inside the head is the title, and all that other stuff there, for right now, you can just ignore it. If I wanted to change the title, I would just type in something different there, and I'd be set. And then that will show up at the top, all right? I'm just streamlining in or focusing in on just the stuff I think you need to know. Okay, that's the head. Okay, the next is the meta. Meta is basically where you can put keywords and a description of your site. And it's not really looked at that much anymore by search engines, so don't think that by putting keywords in here that you're really going to help your search engines. Unfortunately, that was so abused by spammers years ago that search engines don't any longer look here. But you can put some keywords in there if you like. It's not a bad idea to put in, from 1 to maybe 6 or 7 at the most. But again, just keep in mind that the search engines aren't really paying much attention to that. But I will tell you that they do look at your meta description. And sometimes in the search engine results, what it says about your site in the results, sometimes they pull it from the description. So what I want you to know is that in the head, right here, there's these things called metadata where you can put a description in and you can put in keywords. And you only add the information right after where it says content equals, and then you would stick it here inside the parentheses. And you could put like, this is a mobile web page about blah, 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 knowing that that will probably show up in the search results as the description of what your site is about. Keywords, again, if you were to add some in here, it's optional because the search engines aren't paying attention to it. But if you did, it would come after where it says content equals. Inside the parentheses, you would put your keywords or keyword phrases separated by commas. Okay? And you put those in. That all occurs in the head, and as I told you earlier, things that are in the head you don't see. All right? If you wanted to play around with that, you can click on that and head on over to the example. Let's go to the next page. We're almost done with this. The other 3 things that are just handy to know, you don't actually have to know this for analytics, but I figured if I took you this far down the road, I may as well, give you the dessert. The other 3 things that are good to know is how to make the different size headings, how to make a paragraph, and how to make an HTML hyperlink. And those are all on this page. You can actually click any of these, and it'll actually show you how to do it and what happens. For example, on this header one, let me open this up. You can see that over here we have header 1, header 2, header 3, header 4, header 5, header 6. As the numbers get higher, the size of your header gets smaller. That's the way it works. So if you're looking on your web page and you're thinking, man, that headline they got up at the top of the page is too big, if you were to actually look in your code, you'd probably see that it says header size number 1. You could actually change that down to header size number 2, and then it would be a little bit smaller. Now, there is this other thing. It's called cascading style sheets, or CSS, that does control size and colors and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into that whatsoever, but this is just basic, simple HTML that can help you in a lot of pinches. Sometimes when you set up little profile pages, or even when you post on message boards and whatever, they allow a little bit of HTML to be added. And if you know just a little bit, it can help you to stand out from the crowd by being able to adjust, different things like font size and font color and things of that nature, or put in a hyperlink. Knowing how to do a hyperlink, I think, is just critically important. And indeed, that is shown here, where it shows you exactly how to make a hyperlink, and then shows you what it looks like when you make it right over here. And you can kind of play around with that a little bit until you get it. Now, I also want to remind you that this is actually a complete tutorial, and I didn't really click on it, but at the top of every one of these, where the yellow arrow is on every one of the pages that we just went through, if you click on it, it'll actually take you over to W3 Schools, and it will actually pace you through these little simple chapters of how to do this stuff, and you can try it yourself. It's just kind of fun. And if you're just trying to figure out how to do one particular thing, they're all listed here over on the left. You don't need to know all this stuff, but if you just want to know how to make a link, you could just click where it says HTML link right here. Click on that, and it's going to take you right to the page to show you how to make a link. There it is right there, and you're all set. If you wanted to know how to put an image on a page, you click that, And that's an example of what the image would look like, and you go down here, and there's the little code for putting an image in. It's pretty darn simple. You just copy it straight from what you see here, and then change a few little things to adjust it, for your own particular use. So that can help you. Okay. Now, the next thing, now that we know just what we need to know of the HTML, we need to learn just a little bit about PHP. PHP, the difference between PHP and HTML is simplistic as I can explain it, is this. HTML is more or less just fixed on the page. You put some code, on a page, and when people see it, it gets displayed in a pretty fashion. Whereas PHP is interactive. It causes things to happen. In other words, the code has some logic to it. It may say, if the person's on this browser, show him this. If they're on this browser, show them that. It can think and adjust and change things on the fly as it happens. But, and this is the difference between PHP and JavaScript, PHP does all its thinking back on the server. Person comes to your web page, the PHP says, hey, there's somebody on my page. It runs back to the server, and the thinking occurs on the server's computer, and then once they figured out what to present to your visitor, then it shoots it back over to them and presents it on the web page. All happens in a nanosecond. Okay? Whereas JavaScript, so it does kind of the same stuff as PHP in general, except instead of it going back to the server to do its thinking, the code and the thinking is actually built into your web browser, and the JavaScript takes care of the thinking right there in the page. Okay? So now, if you think this through one more step, you'll see why PHP will work for phones, but JavaScript won't work for all phones. Think about it. If somebody comes to your web page and your analytics or anything else is being run by JavaScript, if they're on an iPhone or an Android or something that reads JavaScript, you're okay. Because when the little mobile web page comes up, the page itself has the ability to execute this JavaScript and think and figure out what to display, and will do it, no problem. But most phones don't read JavaScript. So when the visitor comes to the page, there's JavaScript there in the code, but the phone doesn't know what the hell it is, so it just ignores it. Nothing happens. And if your analytics are being run by some little snippet of Java code, nothing happens, because your page can't think on its own if it's on a phone that can't understand or read this JavaScript. Well, PHP is our savior here, because if somebody comes and hits the page on a phone and you've got PHP in it, let's say your analytics are being run by PHP, then the page says, hey, there's a person here. Let's go do some thinking, but we're going to do the thinking on the server. The server goes and does all the thinking, and then once it's got the answer, maybe of something it's going to present, it pushes it back into the phone. Basically, the thinking occurs on the server, not on the phone itself. That's why it doesn't work. All right? So that means that you need to know PHP just a little bit in order to get this code installed and have it work. Now, there are other types of code that work on the server, like ASP and Cold Fusion and other stuff like that. And it could be that if you're working on a different type of server, you might need to do that. But the real bottom line here is that it isn't going to work with JavaScript. So forget it. All right? And there are many mobile analytic programs out there that say, hey, go ahead and use JavaScript, and what will happen is then you'll get only analytics just for smartphones, and you'll get virtually nothing or very little from value from phones that don't read JavaScript. So that's why we need to know that. Now, if you need to want to see this stuff, then you can click the link here at the top. It's going to take you back over to W3 Schools, and you'll see the basic syntax for JavaScript, and you can kind of read this. And then the same thing, if you need to know anything in particular, everything's over here on the left, nice and neat, so that you can just look up just what you need. Now, even less so than HTML, there's probably not a lot that you're going to need to do with PHP. You can dig around and play around with HTML and get a lot done. PHP is just a little bit harder because it's a thinking software or code, so therefore you have to be a little bit more of a programmer in order to get all this stuff done. So I'm just going to show you the bare bones to get this done. Now, here's the way. You remember how I told you that the way HTML works is that at the beginning it'll have HTML inside the little pointy brackets. Remember that? Well, with PHP, it always starts off with a pointy bracket, a question mark, PHP, then there's some stuff in between, whatever. You can stick almost anything in there. And then to close it out, at the end of that tag would be another question mark and your closing pointy bracket. So that's the format to stick something into your page so that the computer knows that it needs to read it through the eyes of PHP. See, your computer, as it grabs a web page, it starts at the very top, just like humans when they look at a page in a book. We start at the very top and we start reading it, straight down to the bottom. Well, as the computer starts reading down a web page, these little tags that start with these pointy brackets, they tell the computer what language it needs to read. It says, hey, computer, you're about to read some HTML. That's why I've got HTML and pointy brackets, okay? Computer goes, cool. And then everything you put after that HTML tag, the computer knows to read it as HTML. Then all of a sudden it comes to this other place where there's a pointy bracket, a question mark, and it says PHP, and the computer goes, we're going to change languages and read some PHP for a while. And then anything that's here where it says stuff, the computer reads that, interprets it back on the server, thinks about it, pushes back the right answer, and bingo, your page has some logic in it. Now, though I've displayed it like this on the left side, don't think that it has to display like that. You can also display it all in just one single line. So it doesn't matter whether it's, like this or like that. You'll see it both ways. But I wanted you to see it in both ways because when you see this code in just a moment, you're going to see it sometimes one way, sometimes the other. It can be either one of these ways. And where I have the word stuff, you don't actually put the word stuff there. It'll actually be something in there. Now, let's put something in there. In fact, we're going to do something that's called an include. And this is the last little piece that you have to know before we actually do something. Here you can see that we started off with our tag with a bracket, a question mark, PHP. And then now that the computer knows that it needs to do something, we tell it what to do. Hey, computer, we want you to include something on the page. What do we want you to include? Well, we've got it right here inside these parentheses and inside these quotation marks, what we would like you to include. And it happens to be some text or some information that we've put in another page that's on our same server. So even though you're looking at our web page right now and trying to display it for our visitor, before you display it to the visitor, we want you to run out and include the stuff that's in this other page that's on our server. In fact, we called this page something.html. Go grab that stuff and stick it in the page along with the rest of the stuff. Okay? And then you close the tag with a question mark and a closing pointy bracket. Now, you could include anything, okay? Look down here. I could say, why don't you include this file? It's called analytics.php. Or why don't you include this file? It's called analytics.txt. Or why don't you include this file? It's called analytics.html. You're just telling the server computer what it is that you want stuck into the page. Now, that's where we come to analytics, because what we're going to do is we're going to tell the server to stick in our analytics code. That's what we're going to tell it. We're going to say, hey, server, if you speak PHP, read this. We want you to include our analytics on the page. And all you have to do is put in that little one line of code right there, and you're going to be okay. And if you want to know more about includes, then you would click right here, and it'll take you over there, and you can read about it. So we now know all we need to know about HTML and all we need to know about PHP. to do some damage and actually install some mobile analytics. Now, whether you use Motily, %mobile, or AdMob Analytics, or any others, you're going to see that they will all give you the different types of code to stick into your page. And so we're going to quickly actually do this. Let's go over to Motily. Here we are at Motily. You can sign up for this. You can get started for free, and it remains free unless you want some advanced stuff. And you can compare these 3 different services and decide which one you want. But you sign up. I've already signed up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sign in. And we'll actually do this. Okay. What did I do wrong? Maybe it's my email address. No! Jeez. How embarrassing. It's got to be this. Ah, there we go. Okay. I am in my Motily Mobile Analytics account right now, okay? And this is one I just set up. It's not, doesn't have anything going on at all. But I'm in there, and what I did first is right over here where it said add a site. I just clicked on that, and I put in the name of my site. I put in the URL of my site, put in my time zone, select the industry I'm in, and then I hit save. And that actually created for me my site, which was Dan Hollings, Web Strategist. There's the web address right there. I could view the reports. There's nothing to view yet because the code's not in there. And then here is where the settings are. I just clicked on settings. All right? Now, what do we have down here? Well, look at here. I could click on that. JSP stands for JavaScript, and I could put in this, but that's not the best code to have in there. Okay? Actually, this is for a Java server. There's PHP Post, there's PHP curl, there's ASP.NET, there's VP script, there's Perl, there's Ruby on Rails. All of these are, it's just like, having English, Spanish, German, Russian, Japanese. They're just different languages. They all kind of do the same thing. And if you happen to be on a server that uses a particular type of language, then all you're going to do is grab the code that's here. All of this code, you don't even have to look at it. It doesn't even matter what it is, okay? And I'm going to grab it, PHP curl. And if you're not sure which one to use, you can ask your host, or you can just try each one and see which one works. But I would grab this one and put it into my page. But before I do that, I'm just going to grab it. And I'm going to go over to just a blank piece of paper here. This is in my little editor. You could use any type of plain text editor that you might want. I happen to use something called BB-Edit. And I'm going to paste this code in here. Now, here it is. This is all that code. Look at all that stuff, It doesn't matter what all it is. But guess what you know? It starts with PHP right up there. And then you got, right here, you got stuff. That's stuff. Look at all that stuff. And then after the stuff, it closes with question mark and a little pointy bracket. So can you see how this works? You're telling the computer at the very top that this is PHP. You put in a bunch of stuff, which is all that code and down there. So that's it. I mean, I just put it there for you to take a look at it. So I got that. And then let me by the way, you should read the instructions, but I'm going to show you what to do. Right here it says copy and paste the code below into the pages on your site, and then they have some tips there. I mean, that's how easy it is. So we can do that now because you know it. I copy all of that. Now I open up on my desktop my web page. Let's do index, which is my home page. Okay? Okay, we got these separate. Okay, so what we have on the screen now, on the left side is the code, which is my analytics code, the PHP code, and on the right side here is my little mobile web page that I built over on MobiSite Galore, downloaded it to my desktop, and I can play around with it all I want before I upload it on my server. And by the way, MobiSite Galore now allows you to pay for their high-end version. I think it's 15, 16 bucks a month, and you should be able to download your site and do all of this. Okay, so this is the code just as it came off of from MobiSite. I didn't do anything here except download it, and here it is. Okay, and what were the instructions? It said, well, take this code and paste it onto your page. Well, that sounds pretty easy. You really could paste it anywhere you wanted. All right, you could paste it at the very top. One thing about PHP code is that it does not necessarily have to go in the head or the body of the page. I often do this. I'll go down and put it right before, at the very end, right before the closing body tag. You could put it after the HTML, but you can put it anywhere on the page. The reason I do it this way is because I would like for my page to all load first, and then all of this PHP stuff to load at the end. So here's what I could do. I could take all of this code, I just copied it, and I could go down here at the very end, right before my closing body tag, and I could paste it in. Now just paste it in, now you can see all of this stuff is in here, along with my page. I could take that now and upload it onto my server, and I would have code running. Okay? No big deal. But if my page is 20 pages long, I'm going to have to take every single page and paste this code into every single page. That's not such a big deal. You can do that because you need to have tracking not on just your home page. You want to have tracking on every single page in your site, and you want to have tracking on your thank you pages that come up after a person has opted in or after a person has bought something. Everything that can be tracked, you want to try to get some code onto it. Okay? And you could do it that way. But there's another way that makes it just a little bit easier. I'm going to remove all of that code. And what we have here now is just back to my regular old mobile web page, and there's nothing down here at the bottom. Do you remember what I told you about an include? Well, let's do a little magic here. This piece of PHP code that came from Modally, I've got it in a little document here. Right now, if you look at the top, it's untitled. Why don't we save it? And I'll save it as Modally. I could call it anything. You could call it Modally.php. You could call it Modally.html, whatever you want, Modally.txt, txt, doesn't really matter. I'm going to call it Modally.html, and I'm going to save it actually in my MobiSite, which happens to be on my desktop. I'm going to save it, and it's called Modally.html. So I just saved it. And if you look in my folder on my desktop right here, you'll see that I have a file now called Modally.html, and that is my tracking code. I've got that. Now, if I want to put that up on my server, I can. Let me show you how I do it. I am now in FileZilla. On my desktop, I can see that my mobile site is right here, and it's open, and here are all my files. Okay? They're all right here. Okay. Now, if I want to go to a remote site, they call it a remote site, but that's my server or where I host my stuff, then I've got to tell it where to go. So I'm going to tell it that I want it to go to danhollings.mobi. That's my host. And then I put in you'll have a username and a password for your FTP server, for your server. And you may have to put a port in, but in many cases you don't. Then you just do quick connect, and all this stuff starts happening right up in this area. You can ignore that, and then all of a sudden, there's my server right there. Now, what am I looking for? On my server, which is on the right side of the screen, I'm going to look for public HTML. All right, so I find that, double-click it, and, oops, but I did something wrong. Actually, I'm in the wrong domain. This is the public document for this domain here. I need to go back to domains. Make sure you're in the right domain first. I have a lot of domains. So let's find Dan Hollings. Here it is, danhollings.mobi. I want to get into that domain. Once I'm in there, then I look for public.html. It's right there. Now here are all the files of my mobile site as they currently exist up on my domain. But I wanted to add my new page that I had just built. Remember, we just put just the analytic code into a file that I called modally.html. And again, there's nothing in that file except just the stuff that I copied from the Modally site. I just copied it, put it in there, my tracking code. So I want to put it on my server, all right? Okay, let's see here. Okay. Okay, now when you go to upload onto your server, if this pops up, it'll ask you, do you want to overwrite, overwrite if source is new, or it gives you a bunch of choices. In other words, if I've already had a file on my server called modally.html, it wants to know how I want it handled. Do I just want to erase the old modally.html and replace it with this new one? In most cases, that is what you're going to do. I usually check this one and say overwrite if the source is newer, just so I don't make a mistake. But either do overwrite or overwrite if source is newer, and then do OK. All right. Now, you'll see right here that file is now on my server. Okay? And by the way, no, you're okay. And how did I do that? I clicked on this. I actually right-clicked on it, and I did upload. That's all I did. And then that moved it over here to the server. Now, your computer, you may be able to drag it. It's funny because I don't use this software as my primary software, but the other day I was able to actually drag them over there. Oh, I guess you can drag them down here, so you could do it that way. So I could just drag it down there, and then that would do it. Process queue. I'll just always keep that. Okay. So what I've done is I've taken the file from my desktop, and I've just put it on my server. There it is, Modally. That's my analytics code. Now, let's go back to the other thing that I showed you, and you'll see how some magic occurs. Remember when I had this, oops, here, let me escape out of that. This little piece of code that said include something. You can copy that straight from the presentation, or just type it in if you want to. And now I can go back to my web page. This is my mobile web page, the home page called index.php. And whereas before, down at the bottom, right before the closing body tag, I had pasted in the entire chunk of code, now what I could do is just include a little tag called include, but my file isn't called something.html. My file is called modally.html. So all I got to do is change that to modally.html, and let me make sure you're with me on what this is going to do. When this web page gets put on my server and a visitor hits this page, index.php, which is the home page, The computer is going to run through and display the whole page, and when it gets down to the bottom, it's going to say, whoa, here's a little piece of code that says I need to read PHP, and what it's asking me to do is to include a file called modally.html. Well, you and I know that all modally.html are my analytics. So it's going to pull in that little chunk of code and just put it there in the page. Nobody's going to see this because this is just tracking code. It's hidden to the viewer. And no matter where you might put it on the page, it's going to be hidden. We could actually take this PHP include and not put it right there. We could actually put it up at the very top of the page. Right at the very top, right there, we want it to. Okay, and it would still include it. Since this is just tracking code, it's invisible, and it's not going to be seen anyway. Now, you may be saying, well, Dan, why did you do it that way? The reason is because now I can go to every page in my site, and instead of pasting that huge big chunk of code, I can, let's open up, like I've got this other page here that's called About Me. Here's the About Me page right here. Down at the very end of the About Me page, right before the closing body tag, see the body tag right there? I could just put that in there, and it's going to pull in the tracking code for that page. And I can do this for every single page. Now guess what? A month from now, when Modally sends me an email and says, hey, we just updated our tracking code, and it's now doing this, this, and this, make sure you update the code on your website, you're going to go, oh, no big deal. Because all you have to do is just find the modally.html. I'm sorry, let me open this in the right thing. The modally.html, which is right here, and you just paste in the new stuff that they tell you is the new updated code. You just paste that in right there and upload that one file on the server, and now your whole site is done because your pages are including the modally.html in every single page. So that gives you just one place to update your analytics code, and your whole site is done. So I know it's a little more complicated to do it as an include, but it will make your life easier when you do this. Now, let's do it again. Let's do it again. I so want you to know this. Let's do it again, only this time, let's do it at %mobile. Okay, %mobile. And by the way, I really like %mobile. Let's go there and take a look at it. Understand your mobile traffic. This is totally free. It was built from the ground floor up. They're not trying to sell you anything else. Maybe down the road they might, but they're not right now. And once you get an account, it gives you everything that you need to know about mobile all on a single page. I'm going to sign in and actually show you what this looks like. And the cool thing is that you can set this up for your regular PC site, and you can set it up for your mobile site. And what it does for your PC site is it lets you know, in fact, that's where the name comes from, what % mobile is hitting your PC site. Now, I only set this up just a few days ago, so there hasn't been much traffic here. But right now, 2% of my traffic, this is my PC site, is mobile. And very quickly, I can see how many visits there's been. You know, I've got my little, what they call it, a spark chart or whatever here that tells me when people have been to the page. It's been 5 devices. 100% of them were on Wi-Fi. If you go to my site, danhollings.com, on a mobile device, then this is going to pick it up. This isn't picking up all your, you know, like if you've got Google Analytics, you can just leave that on the page and you can add this to it. This is picking up the mobile part, the part that Google Analytics is missing. and telling you what's going on your PC site as far as your mobile users. The other thing that I think is really cool is they actually put little pictures of the type of phones here to let you know that, like in my case, 33% have been Apple phones, 16% are BlackBerries, and so it goes to the different types of phones, and it's got all that information, and if you click on any of this stuff, it gives you more information. So I really like this. It's all on one page. You scroll down further, it tells you where the traffic's coming from. You got that? It tells you the network that it's coming in on, Comcast, Sprint, T-Mobile, what have you. It tells you, and this is really important, the different URLs that they've hit and the refers. In other words, where has the traffic come from? Was it Google, this, that, whatever? You've got all of that. So this is percent mobile, and bingo, you can have mobile analytics on your PC site, and you can set this up as well, and you should, for your mobile site. Now, let's take a look at my account and see what they ask us to do. I had to set up this URL. That's no big deal, and that's where you view report, and here's where you can edit things. But you click right here in order to get your site tracking code. All right. What do they ask you for? They tell you to choose your platform, and what choices do you have? JavaScript, PHP, ColdFusion, WordPress, Ruby's on Rails plugin. Those are the choices. Now, yeah, JavaScript works everywhere, but it doesn't work very well everywhere. And so your better choice is either PHP, ColdFusion, or these other ones, okay? Since you now know enough PHP to get this done, you would select that. And then bingo, it tells you exactly what you need to do in order to make this work. So here's what we do. Step one, we download this file, %mobile.php. You have to download it. It's some kind of a library. I don't know what the heck it does, but basically they want you to download it and then unzip it and put it on your server. Put it in the very same directory right next to your index file. Okay? That's what they want you to do. So you just do it, all right? Really only one ad, and you just can't help but see it, and sometimes you can't help but click it, even if it's accidentally, when you're just trying to scroll around and stuff, and you can make some good money. In fact, the type of revenues that can come in from AdMob or any type of mobile ad network can be tremendous if you can develop a popular site that's or a niche site that has some decent traffic. And I've given you 28 great traffic strategies. You know how to build a mobile website, pretty easy. It doesn't take a lot of content, but you need to have content that's of interest. And you can build a landing page and what have you. You can put together different interesting niche sites, put these AdMob ads on there, and let that supplement or be an additional income source, to whatever you're doing. Or you can do this for clients. And not only can you put ads on your sites, you can also, in AdMob, you can run ads. So you can run an ad, have it go out into their network. It's just like, AdSense or AdWords. And then you can get rapid click-throughs. In fact, you can get so many clicks in such a short amount of time, it is scary. Whereby you might put an ad up through AdWords, and maybe it would take a week, to run through $100 or so. You could run through $100 in a mobile ad network in 15 minutes. And so now that's good if the ad is bringing you results. I mean, why wait a week to get results if you can get them in 15 minutes? But it's bad if it runs through your money in 15 minutes and you don't get results. So you can see why you have to test things and make sure you've got conversion and all of that stuff really well, because this is a fast-moving world here. But that's exciting. And get good at this world, and there's some good money there to be had. Now, the reason I explained all that to you is because AdMob has integrated their analytics code in with their ad running code. What that means is that when you put your code into your web page, if you want it to only be for analytics, you can have it do just that. If you want it to only just do ads, you can have it do that, or you can have it do both ads and analytics. It's all built into the same little snippet of code that you're going to paste into your site. So you're really getting two things done at once. Now, if you want to see what this is like, then grab your mobile phone and go to my website, danhollings.mobi, danhollings.mobi, and take a look at it. Now, if you do this on your computer, it won't work. You have to be on a mobile phone. And what I mean by it won't work is AdMob will not display ads if somebody hits your mobile site on a computer. It'll just be blank. There won't be anything there. But if you hit a mobile website that has AdMob code in it and you're on a mobile phone, then an ad will pull up. If you go to danhollings.mobi and if you look at the bottom of my mobile page, you'll see that there's a little ad there. Feel free to click it. I might make a nickel or whatever, but there's an ad there. If you click on About Me on my website, there's a lot more content on that page. And if you scroll down at the very bottom, right under where it says Add Me to Your Phone Book, there should be an ad there. Now, sometimes the ads don't load. If they don't load, you can either refresh the page or just go onto another page. I'm not sure if they just don't do it sometimes, or maybe for some reason it doesn't catch or what have you. But you can click on any of the links in my site, and at the bottom, you're going to see that the ad pulls in there. So guess what? I'm pulling the ad in through PHP, but I'm using that little include trick that I showed you. Because as AdMob decides to change their code, and they will, and, AdMob's been bought by Google, and pretty soon all of this is going to be ported over to Google, and sure as God made green apples, they're probably going to change the code up. I don't want to have to go in and be pasting, code into dozens of pages. And if you're doing this a lot, you could have hundreds and hundreds of pages out there. You don't want to have to be pasting analytic codes in there every time AdMob changes, or whatever analytics software that you're using. So using that PHP include trick and take care of this. So that's what's going on there. Now, if I didn't want these, I didn't have these ads on until right before this presentation, because I have not been running ads on my site. I turned them on just so you guys could see this on my site. This is a MobiSite Galore site that was built at MobiSite Galore, downloaded onto my desktop. It's the very one that we were looking, on the server at just a few minutes ago. And then all I did is just added the AdMob code down at the in the footer of the page, and then did it as an include, the PHP include. Then I uploaded it, on my server at danhollings.mobi, and bingo, I'm all set. So that's what's happening now. The only thing you got to think about with this is that in all the other analytical code that you might paste on your site, it doesn't matter as much where you put it on the page, because the code is basically invisible to the end user. But with AdMob, you need to paste the code in at the very spot where you would want the ad to show up. Now, if you're not going to be showing ads, you can turn it off, and then you can put it anywhere on the page you want. But if you do decide that you want to show ads, then you need to make sure that you paste the code into the HTML at a spot where the where you would want the ad to show up. So let's take a look at this, and let's go back to my site here. If I wanted, and in my case, on my server, let's actually go to my server. I'll do the FileZilla version. On my server, I've got this file here. You see it, it's called admob.html. That happens to be the code for displaying the ads and the analytics for AdMob. So if I wanted that to be at the bottom of my page, then what I would do is I'd go to my index file. Here it is. And down at the bottom, instead of it saying I'm at the bottom of my mobile home page, index.php, down here I would change this to add mob. And now, if I upload that to my server, actually that's the one that's already there, then it's going to pull that in. But where I've got it right now, as you're looking at on the screen, would pull it in underneath my copyright. Well, I don't think I want it there. I want to have it right, I want to have it a little higher, because I'd like for somebody to click it maybe. Here, actually I've got it right here. See, I've got it right below where it says visit my PC. I decided that's where I wanted to put it. Just remember, when you add this code into a web page, never add it inside another tag. Okay? Notice how this tag right above it, you don't even have to know what it means, but that means something. You don't want to put your code inside it. It's got to make sure it's always not inside some other tag. So I saw that this tag closed out here, and there was another tag opening up right here, and as long as I put it in between that, I'm fine. In other words, put it in between other tags. So that's where I put it. That makes it show up right below where it says visit my PC website on my little mobile site. Got it? Okay. Now, don't worry about stuff that's on your web page that just doesn't make sense to you. You just ignore it, don't touch it, and as long as you've got a backup copy, you're always going to be okay. If you're building your stuff over at MobiSite Galore, they keep a backup for you. But still, I would recommend that anytime you start playing around with files, editing anything, just make a copy of it, stick it someplace, then edit away, make one or two little edits at a time, upload it to your server, test the page, and see if it works. If it works, great, keep going. Never go into a web page and make a dozen edits, then upload it, because if it doesn't work, you've got a dozen potential things that you could have done wrong. The way you do it is you make one edit, maybe two edits, upload it, take a look at it on your mobile phone. If it works, great. Then you can make another edit or two, upload it, and keep going. Always making one, maybe two edits at a time. That way, if something all of a sudden doesn't work, you can get rid of the last two edits that you did, and you'll be back to where you were. And believe it or not, I've never taken any programming courses. I haven't really even read any books. I just get into this and just start pecking around at it a little bit. It's very easy if you look at this page to see that, gosh, there's the title, and if you look at the page, I mean, let's take a quick look at it here. I'm going to go back to danhollings.mobi. It's even easier on mobile sites than it is on PC sites because there's just not much there. But let's take a look at this. On the right side of the screen is my mobile website, and on the left is what's called the source code. All right? So right here, it says Dan Hollings. Well, that's that right there. Okay? Go down a little bit. It says home. Whoops. I'm sorry about that. Let me get my page back. Okay, it says home. That's this right here. Okay, if I didn't want it to say home, I could change that, and it would change it. Right here it says Internet Strategy Consultant. That's this right here. Okay, right here it says About Me. That's this right here. So if I wanted to change that to be something else, I could say About Us. Okay, and as soon as I make the change, then all I've got to do is upload it onto the server, and it will overwrite the old file, and the new one will be there automatically, and then you're all set. And you can do this all day. You can start it. The other thing you can do is you could build a little mobile website and kind of let it be your play site, and just play around and do a few of these things until you feel comfortable with it and test it, and you're all set. Now, what I want to show you though is in Add Mob, it's a little more complicated, so let's go into that now and take a look at how the code actually works, or actually how I just put this up literally yesterday. Let's see, where. Let me get back to my dashboard. I want to see if I can get back to where the code is. Maybe it's here. No. Just a second. Where the heck is it? Add site. Okay. That's for adding your site. That's my account. Why am I not seeing this? Usage, visitor, sources, events, add site, analytics. Well, darn. Well, let's do it this way. Here is the code, add mob. We'll open it up. All right. All right. What you see on the screen is the code that I actually have on my site. Now, here's what will happen. Actually, I know how I can do this. I'll do this. I'm going to actually show you how to do this. Add a site. Let's just call it, this is your site. The address is, let's just say, it doesn't matter. Let's say that your domain is yoursite.mobi. Okay. Category, portals. Enable benchmarking, we'll leave that checked, and then we'll just do add. Okay, so we just added a site. It says done. Now, see what they did? They presented my code down here. They have PHP, just like the other one. They have all these different languages of code. All right? Well, PHP is the one that is preferable, so we could grab all of that code right here, and we could put that into our site, either pasting it directly in, or we can upload one file and include it using the include trick. Okay, but you'll notice that, let's take a look at the code. Let me make this a little bigger. Right here it says the analytics ID. They've already put in your ID. That is your ID. It'll already be in there. Okay? But there's some other things that they give you instructions. You need to read these instructions here in order for this to work. So it's easier to show you, now that you see where you get the information. Let me go back to the code and let me show you how you have to edit this. This is actually that same code that you just looked at on their site. I just pasted it into a page. And you can see that they have your publisher ID that will already be in there. That's right there. The analytics ID, when you first get this code, it will not be here. You'll have to go into your site. They give you instructions. It says required to collect analytical data. To find your analytics ID, you're going to log into your analytics account, and you're going to click on this, and you're going to go through all of these steps. All the instructions are right there. And eventually they'll give you an ID. You're going to come back, and you're going to paste it right here in between the quotations. Don't ever eliminate quotation marks, whether they're single or double. You always put your stuff generally in between them. So that won't be any. There won't be anything there. You'll have to put something there. Where it says add request, this you need to put as false if you don't want ads. If you're just using this for analytical purposes to do your tracking, then you'll put false there, just like that. And now it will do only analytics, and it won't do the ads. In my case, I had the ads showing, so I have it true. Where it says analytics, you need to make sure that that is true. If you don't want analytics, then you would say false. And then test mode. Follow me on this one. When you first get the code, it's going to say test mode true. That's because they want you to get this all uploaded, pull the site up on your mobile, and look and see if the darn thing is working before they start pulling in any real ads or doing any real analytics. They have a way to show you that it's working. You'll see it on the screen. I forget what it says, but you'll see that it is working. But it's only in test mode. And they do that so that a bunch of paying customers who are running ads don't end up displaying ads while you're just, messing around trying to get your site working, and you're clicking on it to test it and see if it's working and all of that, because you're not a real customer, and they don't want to be charging people or for those ads when you're just trying to get things set up. So it'll say initially true when you first get it, and you're going to want to, once you get it working, then you'll change it over to false, and then you'll re-upload this one file, and then you're all set. Now, this again shows you why it's better to use the include, the PHP include trick, rather than putting this code on every page. Because if you put all the code on every page to test it, then all of a sudden, when you know it's working, then you'd have to go back into every single page and change false to true. Whereas if you're using the include approach, you can just change it in that one file, and then it will work all across your site. Okay? Those are the only things that you just need to look at, those first 5 things. Make sure your publisher ID is in there, your analytics ID is in there. If you want ads, make sure it says true, otherwise put false. If you want analytics, make sure it says true, otherwise false. And once you've tested it and it's working, then you turn that to false so that it is no longer test mode, and then you're all set. Okay? Now, the only other thing that you need to look at is this, is that when you first get your code, there's a line that says add mob underscore set cookie, and it'll have 2 double lines and slashes in front of it. 2 double slashes is a way of turning something off in code. All right? That's why these 2 double slashes, it's telling the computer, look, I've got this information here, but don't read it. It's not for you, Mr. Computer. It's just for me, the human, unless I decide to turn it on. Okay? Those double slashes do that. If you've got just a boatload of content, then they do a slash and these little stars so that you've got like a whole paragraph that's excluded. The computer is not, the server is not going to execute or do anything with this. It's just there. When you first get this cookie thing, it's basically turned off. If you get rid of those 2 lines so that it just straight out says add mob underscore set cookie, then the code will set a cookie in the visitor's browser if it accepts cookies. Some mobile do and some don't. And that will enable them to serve better ads because they're able to read the cookies. If you're not going to be running ads and you're just setting up analytics, then just forget this. You don't need it. This is only if you're going to be running ads, and then you would unescape that. And there's more instructions here. It's more advanced, and you can read it and everything, but that's basically it. If it's just analytics, then leave the 2 slashes in there, and you're okay. All right? And then it says do not edit anything below this line, which is true. Don't touch it, all that stuff. It doesn't matter what it is. You're all set. So you only have to just fill in a couple of little blanks here with true and false and put in your analytics IDs and publisher IDs, and you're all set to do ads or analytics. Okay, so you can see that whether you're doing modally, %mobile, or ad mob, that you basically are doing the same thing. Set up your account at one of these places. They will let you list your mobile web pages or mobile domains. You can do as many as you want. Every time you do, you're going to be given code choices. You can grab the code, let's say it's PHP code, paste it into your HTML anywhere on the page except for add mob. You have to put it where you'd want the ad to show up if you're going to be using ad display. Put it into the page, and then you're going to use FileZilla or some FTP program in order to upload those files into your domain's base or home directory, and then you're set. Now, I'm not recommending necessarily any one of these 3. I think these 3 are all very good. Okay? Right this moment, I'm running %mobile on my PC page, and I'm running add mob on my mobile page. Okay? If I weren't, if I weren't going to do ads, let's say I didn't want to have any ads, I probably would do %mobile on both of them. Okay? %mobile is relatively new, and I've just been playing around with it to see how much I like it. And thus far, I like it a lot, and it's certainly got the right price. and it's simplified, and it's very nice. But everybody seems to love Google. Google bought AdMob, and if you're thinking of going down that road, we all know that there can be money in their ads, and you might want to do that. However, there are more mobile analytic providers that are out there. So I've added a few others that you could take a look at, and some of these provide analytics for mobile apps. If you've got an app, or you're thinking of developing one for Android or iPhone or whatever, any of the smartphones, then you might want to take a look at that. So those are all listed here. I've tried to include a paragraph to tell you a little bit about what it is, or then you can just click the link and go over and take a look at it. Here's part 2. You've got AppClicks, Bango, and Flurry. Bango is definitely something to look at, especially if you're getting a lot of traffic, and especially if you're wanting to go at this big time and do some big time e-commerce stuff. They're more pricey, but they can take care of some really high-end e-commerce and analytics stuff that is exactly what you're going to want if you're really doing this serious and you're getting some good traffic. They're hard to beat. So that's one to take a look at, and they cover e-commerce around the world in all different kinds of formats, and also analytics for apps and what have you. They're just a really, really premium company to take a look at, but they're pricey. That's the challenge. And you may want to get all of your ducks in a row with some of the lower cost things until you figure out what you want to do, what works, what doesn't work, before you make the decision to go over to Bango. And then I think they have a free trial for a while, but then when it starts, I mean, I don't remember what it costs, but it's a couple $100 a month. It's pretty expensive. Flurry, down at the bottom, got into a little riff with Apple recently, and I can't remember exactly, but I think they were banned from analytics for a little bit, but I think they're making peace again, and they may be okay. They were a real leader in providing statistics and analytics for applications and application downloads and all that kind of stuff, but they had some kind of problems, and so keep your eye on them. But if you're doing mobile apps, they were a real leader for a while until that happened. Okay, believe it or not, we are at the end. We are at the end. I'm sure there may be some questions. Let me kick out of this. We don't have much time, and it is my birthday, and my wife's got like cake and dinner and all this kind of stuff waiting for me, so I'm going to be a little brief here. If there are questions that I don't answer, I'm going to look through these quickly, but if there are questions that I don't answer, then certainly put those in the forum, the Stumper Mobile Forum, and I'll try to answer those. Also, if you have specific questions about how to do FTP stuff, just do a couple of searches on Google for, FTP tutorials, and I mean, this is simple, basic stuff, and you will thank me forever once you've done this a few times and you kind of understand how it's done, because it is really simple to do. As they say, even a caveman could do it. But a lot of people just don't do it because nobody ever, makes them feel comfortable. So hopefully I've been able to do that with you. Okay, let's see what we have. It says, do you advise using multiple analytics providers, maybe all 3 that you've shown? Well, I actually recommend that you try a few different ones out, maybe for, try a couple of weeks on one, or maybe a month. It depends on how much traffic you're getting. Maybe a month on one, try the other one for a month, and then another one for a month. Sometimes you can actually run the code for the different ones at the same time. You can try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then you just have to eliminate one. Sometimes the codes conflict. But if they don't, then you're good to go, and you can actually try all 3. And you can see they all give different results. And mobile is it's a difficult animal to do analytics on, and you may just like the display or the way information is provided one over the other. So the answer to that is, yeah, you can do all 3, try them out, and if you have preferences or dislikes, share it with other people, until we figure out which one we really like the best. I'm really leaning strong and heavily toward % Mobile. I like its simplicity, It's a little bit harder to install, but I think the reason is because it needs to be installed the particular way that they've given in order to provide the best statistics. So, that's one thing. But if you're doing ads, you're not going to do much better than AdMob. And also over at AdMob, they have this other thing. I haven't explored it yet, but it's, I think it's, I forget what they call it. Marketplace, tools. Oh, yeah, it's called AdWorld. And there are many other places in addition to AdMob that have ads that can be put into your page. There's AdMob, there's Quattro, there's Jump Tag, there's Millennial, and then Video Egg. These are all sources of ads that can be put on your mobile site. They've got this thing called AdWorld where you can put in the AdMob code into your page, and then you can pull in ads from all of these various ad sources without having to change code. And I think it will allow you to rotate through them or do things like that. Again, I haven't tried it yet. It's new. But that looks really interesting. Then you could have one code, and then you could pull in from these different places. It could be that you may be getting different ads or better ads that work for your audience at Video Egg rather than at Quattro or something like that. So you can kind of play around with that. That's kind of an interesting thing. Okay. Can we run our own ads, like a banner ad, to sell a product? Oh, of course you can. And you can. The simplest way is just to make a little banner or even do text. And you can even kind of mimic some of the things you see AdMob doing. It's working on a big scale level, so obviously if you did it for yourself, you could. Then just upload the image on your server, hyperlink that image so people can click it, takes them someplace where they can buy, or whatever you want to do. But you can certainly do that. I've not done it, but I do believe that the AdMob code will let you mix in some of your own ads. I think they're called house ads. I've not done that either, so that you could mix in some of your own ads along with outsourced ads as well, which is an interesting idea. Okay. Somebody just installed this while we were going through. Boy, you just made my day, okay? And they immediately got an ad on their page. Very, very cool. Okay, very, very cool. All right. I'm having to weave through a bunch of happy birthdays. Okay, good. Okay, happy birthday. Okay. All right. See if there's anything in there. No. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, great. Okay. I hope you guys appreciated this. I really thought long and hard about going into this detail, but I couldn't think of any other way to help you get analytics installed than to teach you a little PHP and HTML. And for those who already know it, thank you for your patience. I'm sure I didn't teach you anything that you didn't already know, so that's really good. So, okay, looks like I've covered most things here. Next week will be session number 10. It's the last of the sessions that came in the package that you signed up with. I'm going to try to cover the areas that perhaps I've covered lightly. I've actually covered most things, but some things just touched on so lightly. There is so much to cover that even in 10 weeks we can't get there. But we will spend more time on e-commerce next week. We'll spend a little bit of time on mobile apps. I'll try to squeeze in everything that I feel that I've treaded a little lightly on in this final session. If I can, I'll try to summarize a little bit everything we've covered, even though I really did that I think it was 2 weeks ago, kind of did a summary of everything you need to do in order to run a good campaign. But it'll be the same time next week, and then we'll also be talking about where we go from here. This is such a fast-moving thing. I'm deep in it. A lot of other people are starting to have some success. I have read incredible success stories from some of the students that are just great. And so we're going to have some type of an ongoing thing that we'll announce next week
that you could stay involved with our group, still continue to have webinars, maybe not every week, but maybe once a month or something. And we'll figure out some type of a continuing ed program so that we can just keep going on learning all of this stuff. So anyway, I'm going to get off. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my birthday. I appreciate everyone being here. You guys have a great week, and I'll see you next Tuesday, same time, same station. And text me or post a message if you need any help.